Nuclear War Survival Skills, Chapter 5 continued, page 53. A cord from within the small shelter, using an improvised pulley as described in Appendix B. Public shelters. In the event of an unexpected attack, many unprepared Americans should and would take refuge in nearby marked public shelters. Throughout the populated areas that would not be subjected to blast, fire, or heavy fallout, the use of public shelters could save millions of lives. All persons concerned with survival should remember that the large majority of officially surveyed and marked shelters give better protection against radiation than most unimproved home basements. Persons preparing to go to public shelters should be aware that many lack forced ventilation and that the blowers and fans of most forced ventilation systems would be stopped by loss of electric power due to electromagnetic pulse effects or by other effects of nuclear explosions on electrical systems. A blast wave at an overpressure range as low as 1 psi, that means 144 pounds per square foot, would wreck most shelter ventilating fans. In 1987, no water or food normally is stocked. A person who brought to a public shelter 10 large plastic trash bags and 10 pillow slips to make 10 expedient water bags in which 60 gallons of water could be stored, as described in Chapter 8, would help both himself and dozens of other shelter occupants. If he hoped to share the basement in a strange family's home, his chances of being welcomed would be improved. If he brought a small homemade shelter ventilating pump and other survival items, the same small pump would be impractical in a large public shelter. An Oak Ridge National Laboratory study completed in 1978 found that if all citizens were to go to National Shelter Survey (NSS) shelters within 1 mile of their homes, 69% of those who found space would be in shelters rated for 1,000 or more occupants. The average number of shelter spaces in this largest class of public shelters was 3,179. The prospect of living in an unequipped shelter crowded with this many unprepared people, each of whom would only would have only 10 square feet of floor space is a strong motivation to work hard to build and equip a small earth-covered shelter. Deciding what kind of shelter to build or use. Before deciding what kind of shelter you and your family should build or use, it is best to read all of this book. Your final decision should include consideration of ways to provide life support equipment discussed in following chapters. At this stage, however, the reader will find it helpful to review important reasons why different types of shelters offer the best hope of survival to different people in different areas and under different conditions. This book is written primarily to improve the survival chances of people who cannot or do not build permanent shelters. The information which follows will help you select the best expedient or available shelter for your family. Shelter near or in your home. If your home is 10 or more miles from an average target, such as a major airport with long runways, or is 20 or more miles from a great city with several strategic targets, you are fortunate. You can prudently build or use a shelter close to your home. No one can foretell accurately which way the winds will blow or where weapons will explode. So, if practical, you should build a shelter that gives better protection against fallout, blast, and fire than shelters in buildings. Most people living outside targeted areas could build such shelter in 2 days or less, using one of the designs of earth-covered expedient shelters detailed in Appendix A. Even if you plan to evacuate, you should decide where you would take shelter nearby in case you were unable to do so. There is always a chance that an attack may be launched without warning, giving insufficient time to evacuate, or the missile aimed at the area in which you live may miss its target. If your targeted home area were not hit, moderately heavy fallout might be the only danger. Even an improved basement shelter would be adequate in that case. Earth-covered expedient family shelters. Advantages of earth-covered expedient family shelters. Better protection against heavy fallout, blast, and fire than afforded by the great majority of shelters in buildings. The possibility of building in favorable locations, including places far removed from target areas, and places where it is impractical to build or to improve large group shelters giving good protection. Page 54. The opportunity for men, women, and children to work together to provide good protection in minimum time.